Thank you. Hi. You look beautiful from that side of the room. So what it is to be human in the robot era? I think it's just asking the good questions. That's our role. But first, I have one question for you. Who is a robot in the room? OK, so we're safe. OK, sorry. So the question I want to ask you today is, will we be good parents for tomorrow's robots? And I'll try to explain to you why it is a very important question for me. So let's play a game. Can you think of a robot? OK, you have it in mind? So maybe you thought of that robot, a nearly human, but with external signs of this thing being a robot, a little bit like Sophia, which is crap, by the way. Or maybe you thought about these robots, not that humanoid, but still looks like humans, able to move in our world, to interact with it, and on the verge of taking control of the planet. Or maybe you thought about those robots. Nice one, raising questions about how we interact with robots, how robots can interact with themselves, and how we interact between humans. Or maybe you thought about this cute one, nothing like a human, but still that's a robot you would like to have at home. And all those robots come from science fiction. And usually science fiction has this strange power of putting some wrong ideas in our minds about what artificial intelligence is or what robots are. Like this one, for example, quite a good example of a bad sign. OK, so let's continue this exercise. Can you think of a real robot? I mean a robot that you know is performing in the real world, that we can see every day. So maybe if I ask you that, you'll think of that kind of robot, industrial robots. They are the robots that are actually working in our society for decades now. Or maybe you thought about that vacuum cleaner robot. OK? So if I had to put the truth on the stage now, those are the kind of robots we have and we use on a daily basis in 2018. OK, but can you think of a real robot that you want to interact with? I mean, do you really want to interact with your vacuum cleaner, OK, or with an industrial robot? So if I ask you that, and if you're a little bit kind of a fan of robots, maybe you thought about those robots. This one is Cosmo from a society called Anki in the States. To be honest, it's my favorite robot at the moment. But it's a toy. It doesn't do anything, really. Just entertain you. Or maybe you thought about that one. This one is a robot, trust me. It's a seal. Does nothing except reacting when you cuddle him. But it's a very important robot in some medical domains because it helps patients with dementia to calm down and to enter in a better interaction with the practitioner after that. That's a really nice research project and commercial robot now. Or maybe you had the chance to interact with Pepper, this robot from a former French society now called SoftBank Robotics. Usually I define those robots as robots that don't do anything except communicate with you, entertain you, provide you with information that you need, and that's it. But it's something very important. OK, and now if I ask you to think about artificial intelligence, what do you think of? Usually a black page. Why? It's only because it's way more complicated to have one single picture that comes in mind when you think about artificial intelligence than when you think about robots. But if you take a step back and have a look at it, in fact, if you think about a robot, then you think about all that matters at the moment for artificial intelligence researchers. It's all about vision, emotion understanding, natural language processing, speech recognition, path planning, animation, and so on, and reasoning, don't forget learning, and so on and so on. So for me, I think robots are a good way to embody artificial intelligence and to see it as a thing that we can interact with. So now that I've said that, the question I want to raise, because being human is all about raising the good questions, is what could be our future? And I like this picture. It has been published in the New Yorker 1 year ago. And it pictures what could be our future. A world full of robots living like human beings, even having pets, okay, and texting while driving or biking. And humans parked in some strange spaces with a sign saying endangered species. Okay? Do we really want that? To be honest, I don't. But I don't know for you. Maybe it will be convenient for you. I don't think so. The question is, can we reach this society? I mean, can we do enough research, enough developments to manage to create those machines able to move around like we do? And technically speaking, putting aside the question of consciousness, yes, it's possible. But maybe you're skeptical about that. Maybe. If you are, let's play another game. Let's take a time-traveling machine, okay? And we are going to pay a visit to Aristotle. Okay, so you went in that time-traveling machine, and here is Aristotle. Nice to meet you, nice to meet you. And then you want to make a selfie. So you take your phone out of your pocket to take a selfie with Aristotle and put it on Instagram. And then you say, oh, hey, look at this thing. So it's a phone, and with that, you can communicate with anybody in the world, which, by the way, is round. Or if you prefer, we can go on YouTube and watch cat videos. Yeah, imagine what happens in Aristotle's brain at that time. And for me, it's exactly the same thing as what should happen in your brain when I talk to you about artificial intelligence. There are many possible outcomes from this topic, but we cannot foresee them at the moment. So, as I told you, I don't want to create a world where robots are more important than us, but how can we avoid that? Should we create laws or regulations or, I don't know, things, rules to protect us from the consequences of improving robots and AI? One guy that I like, Asimov, did that a few years ago. He's a very famous science fiction writer, and he wrote the famous 3 laws of robotics. And then he played, he wrote a lot of different novels just playing with his rules, showing a very important point, which is that it's not possible to regulate the usage of artificial intelligence with simple rules. We need more than that. So I don't believe that we can just define rules, create laws and regulations, and say, okay, we took care of the problem, nothing bad will happen because we have laws. Even if in the research community many people try to do that at the moment, which is a good thing, because it makes us think about the possible consequences, but it's not enough. I'm not saying we don't need to do rules, I'm saying that we need to do more than that. And why? Because AI is getting more and more complex, and as any complex thing, it's difficult for us to understand it. But if we want to make decisions on a thing, then we have to understand it. So we have to improve the general understanding of what AI is. Just to give you some example, but you may have seen them before, In 1996, when Garry Kasparov got beaten at the chess game by a computer, we just said that, oh, okay, it's okay. Then 20 years later, when Lee Sedol got beaten again, we said, oh, it's a little bit scary. And it's even scarier when you think that the machine that has beaten Lee Sedol is even better now. And we are doing very complicated things like autonomous cars, even if, as I understood before, autonomous car in Amsterdam is a nightmare. But still, these machines are doing very complicated tasks that we humans can do. That's true. But they do it better than us. So the other question I want to raise is, could we educate robots? As you understood, I want to educate people, but I also want people to educate robots. Why? Just because it looks like a good idea to create artificial intelligence that you do not program, but that you educate, like you would educate a kid. And this is not a new idea. This idea was actually presented for the first time by Alan Turing, which in my opinion is one of the best minds in artificial intelligence. And he said exactly that. He said it apparently would be much more interesting to create a child at artificial intelligence and raise it than to directly try to design a human, adult human artificial intelligence. And if you think about it, it's actually quite a good idea. When you look at kids, children between 0 and 4, they learn by interacting with the environment. For example, they grasp an object and they release it and the object falls. And if you think about it, they've understood gravity even before understanding how to say the word gravity. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do with robots. I'm working on a field called developmental robotics, and the idea is to create robots or artificial agents able to learn by interacting with the environment. So the idea by doing that is that we provide those robots with the ability to interact and to build their own model of the world through this interaction. And it's a step forward to go if we want to go towards a better, a more general artificial intelligence. And it's also an answer to the classical question of data, because those agents are able to learn with only a few tries, only a few experiences. Why? Just because they are making experiences on the real world, they are making hypotheses on how the world will behave, and they are only learning what they have to learn to perform their tasks. So they are very efficient in learning. And many research projects go that way. So let's think for a minute that I'm right to believe that developmental robotics is a good way to create artificial intelligence and see the consequences. The consequence of that is that if it works, and some programs work at the moment, then in a few years, creating artificial intelligence will not only be the responsibility of researchers or startups working in the field, but it will be the responsibility of all of us. I mean, all of you, myself included, will have a robot for a reason or for another, and will be able to educate that robot to perform some tasks. And it's a very important consequence. And maybe you can start to see the link with the title of my presentation, which is, Will we be good parents for tomorrow's robots? What I mean by that is that if we pretend that we will educate the AI of tomorrow, we'd better know what to teach them. And for that, we'd better understand how AI is functioning, what AI is doing with the values, with the knowledge we will going to give it. So, as you may have understood, if we want to go toward this future, which I think is a good way to go, we have to educate ourselves. All of us. Not only the researchers, not only the entrepreneurs, but everybody. everybody has to understand the causes and the consequences making AI work. And that's a concept that a French researcher recently named education, with an AI in it, a fun play of word, I had to put it. So I think that's the important goal to achieve, in particular if we want to be good parents for tomorrow's robots. Okay, thank you for your attention. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Amelie.
You're welcome. I'm on time.
Oh, you still?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah, you're good? Okay. Do we have any questions in the audience? Yes, we do. Okay.
Oh.
So where do we start with the education?
Here, right now, we are doing exactly that. We are talking about AI, we are talking about many important topics like bias in data, governance, future of politics, and that's exactly what we need to do. But the problem is that in that room, you're already interested in the field. So your job is to promote the idea and get more people interested in the topic. So that's my first answer. As a researcher, I started 2 years ago by by creating an association in Lyon, and we do exactly the same kind of thing. We organize workshops, we organize different activities, conferences, things with kids, things with elderly people to promote the idea that we have to understand what AI is all about and to try to separate the myths from science fiction, from the reality, while keeping an eye on the big dangers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Also, a fortune cookie to you.
Oh, thank you. I'm still struggling with in 2 days, tomorrow will be yesterday, so hope it will be different.
I hope this will help.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.